Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. And I know it's been out for a bit, but I finally got around to watching Andor from the Star Wars series. And I'll be honest, I kind of liked it. I strayed away from it for a little bit because I thought it was gonna be one of those Disney Hollywood movies or shows that goes heavy on their political messaging. Mostly because I believe one of the actresses in the show, they said that it would be their take on a Trumpian world and talking about Trumpism. And I don't know, whether you like or hate Donald Trump, I feel like that kind of stuff has been done to death, especially since it's been 2 years since Trump has been out of office. So all these actors are really doing is just demonstrating that he's still living rent-free in their heads. So, I don't know. So I ended up just not seeing the show for a while because of that. But then I got suggested by a couple coworkers that I should see it because it's really good. So I ended up watching it, and well, I actually enjoyed it. I mean, I liked it better than the Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. As for the politics in it, I didn't see anything glaring that was supposed to talk about a Trumpian world, as they call it. Yes, the Empire is the stand-in for fascism and stuff like that, but that's not really specifically about Trump. So again, all they did was just prove that once again Trump is living in their heads rent-free, even though it's been 2 years since he's been out of office. Yeah, 2 years. And personally, I feel like Disney and just Hollywood in general, they should really start thinking on keeping their actors on a tight leash on what they say or what they do. At least when they talk about politics, because all they really do is just divide people. That's what Ewan McGregor kind of did when he was talking about Birds of Prey. He was constantly kind of talking about how it talks about gender politics, and as a result, well, the movie just didn't do that well in theaters because that kind of turned people off from seeing it. But enough about that. The story itself is really great. It's a lot darker and grittier than I think anything I've ever seen in Star Wars. The whole thing just opens up with Cassian Andor going to a seedy, basically a dive bar in the Star Wars universe, and then he gets jumped by these two drunk police officers who I think they said were on duty, and he ends up killing both of them. That basically kickstarts a murder investigation. So he goes back to his home planet, and the Corpos, I believe they're called. They're basically the policemen of the world that he was previously on. They follow him there, while at the same time there's this buyer, played by Stellan Skarsgård, who recruits him for this dangerous mission to infiltrate an Imperial garrison and steal, I think it's their entire quarterly payroll. And then from there, after the mission, Cassian is trying to lay low, and ironically he ends up getting detained, or wrongfully detained, for a crime that he actually didn't commit. And basically the story itself is kind of set up into 3 different arcs. The first one is where he's hiding out back on his home world. The second is where he infiltrates the Imperial garrison with this small cell of rebels. I don't think they're a fully formed rebel alliance just yet. And then the third and final arc is about Cassian in prison, right? The cast is great. Diego Luna is great as Cassian Andor. He wasn't exactly my favorite character from Rogue One, but I didn't really care for any of the characters because I knew they were going to get killed off anyway. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but Diego Luna did great as Cassian Andor. Stellan Skarsgård was fantastic as the character Luthen. And he actually shows a more interesting side of like the rebels, where he even says at one point that like to get more people on their side, they basically have to push the Empire like to take drastic measures and go in extreme directions for like the normal people to finally realize that they're being oppressed. And I kind of think that's a little bit of like an asshole thing for him to do, although at the same time I kind of agree with him um where like if there's an injustice or something, like you kind of have to push the offending party to the extreme for people to finally realize it. Andy Serkis is pretty cool in like the small role that he has, because like he's like this like he's this fellow inmate in the prison that Cassian's in, and he's like a floor manager. I think I think that's what he's called, where he like supervises like everybody in creating these like sort of like star-shaped contraptions, machinery. I know that a lot of people were trying to connect him with Snoke, but I just didn't see it. Like even when he's on this one like intercom speaker during the final episode he's in, and he's speaking like in this deep voice, like I even played back a scene of Snoke talking, like in The Rise of Skywalker, and like the voice of Snoke sounds nothing like Andy Serkis's character in Andor, so I'm not really sure where they're getting the Snoke theories. And I mean, I'm sorry, but I just don't see like Snoke. I don't see Snoke's origin being that like he was originally a prisoner of the Empire, if that's what they're kind of going for. Like, personally, I think that's an even dumber theory than Darth Jar Jar. But so those guys do great. Whoever plays Mon Mothma did a great job playing that character, because like, I mean, this is the first time in Star Wars that I actually like was engaged in like the scenes that are talking about politics. A lot of the other supporting characters, they're all right. Like Cassian's adoptive mother, who actually, if I'm right, that's the actress who was talking about how their show was gonna be their take on a Trumpian world, as she called it. I mean, she does all right as the character kind of she plays. Marva, I think it is. This other character, Bix, who, I mean, I don't know if they were trying to set her up as like the love interest for Cassian, but either way, she does okay. There's this one head ISB agent who does a pretty good job, like coming off as unlikable, and at the same time, there's some moments where you kind of sympathize with her on like how sometimes she's not taken seriously, and she basically has to climb her way to the top, like in her position. There's even this one guy who's like the main like corpo policeman from the planet that Cassian was originally on, where you kind of sympathize to where he's coming from, at least, where he's trying to track down like a murderer, even though like he's told like not to. That guy was all right until the final few episodes that he was in, where I think they're trying to set him and the ISB agent up, and that's pretty much the one thing that I don't care about, especially like in the second to last episode that he's in, where where it basically shows that he's basically stalking the ISB agent like a lovesick puppy. I don't know, that whole thing felt weird to me. There's one of the prisoners that's with Cassian. I didn't realize this until I looked it up, but turns out he was also in Rogue One. But, well, I'm sorry, that guy was forgettable. At least to me, he was. For anyone who watched Rogue One, Forrest Whitaker comes back as Saw Gerrera for a few episodes. That was pretty cool to see him in. Oh, yeah, and there's even a couple actors that I recognized. I just had to look them up, where one of the rebels that's with Cassian when they're infiltrating the Imperial garrison. I think his name is Skeen, but he initially tries to double-cross Cassian and the other rebels, and Cassian kills him. I didn't recognize him until I looked him up, but the actor's name is Ebon Moss, and I only know him from the first season of The Punisher. He played David Lieberman in Micro, so that was cool seeing him again. And then there was this other kid who was part of that rebel squad who I can't remember what his name was, but I do know that he was also the oh yeah, he was also like the teenage boy in the Netflix series The End of the Fucking World. So there's that. And like even the actress who plays as Binks, again, I can't remember the name, but I do know that she was in the movie Morbius as Dr. Morbius's love interest in that one, where she ends up getting killed at the end but revived as a vampire. And this actually makes me think that at this point, like, a lot of production companies, specifically Sony and Disney, they're at this point just passing around their actors, because you see them constantly in like basically the same productions. Like you got Stellan Skarsgård, and like he was in Andor right now, and he was also Dr. Selvig in the Thor movies and Avengers movies. And if you guys remember, like way back in the early 2000s, he was also Bootstrap Bill in Pirates of the Caribbean. So that's like 3 different Disney productions that he's been in. Then you got the person who played as Bix, who was in this, and she was also in Morbius, which is technically a Sony production. But you end up seeing a lot more of those. You end up seeing a lot of actors from Sony productions also in Disney ones, like, frequently. Again, like that one guy who was the rebel, Ebon Moss, he's been in The Punisher and now in Andor. And they're not the only ones, right? You've seen, like, you got Oscar Isaac, who was both the Moon Knight and he was Poe Dameron. And I think he was also in a couple other kind of Disney productions, but I can't remember at the moment. And I just think it's really funny that they're basically like reusing the same actors for like different TV shows and movies, kind of like what the CW does with their own TV shows. But I don't know, I just think it's a pretty interesting thing. I will admit, like, the story does seem a little bit slow at times. Like, there's not that much action. Like, there's some episodes where, like, there's no action at all. And I honestly think that's okay. Like, I'll be honest, like, I didn't really like the direction that Obi-Wan took. Like, I don't know if I'm on an island for saying this, but I would have preferred to see, like, Kenobi just stay on Tatooine, and like maybe some Inquisitors show up, and he has to fight them, or like they figure out that like Luke is strong in the Force, so like Obi-Wan has to protect him. But I would have preferred seeing him on Tatooine, like just showing his like everyday life before he somehow gets pulled back into the fold. Or like with the Book of Boba Fett, I kind of wish that it just stayed like strictly as a I kind of wish it stayed like strictly as like a gritty story about like the underworld and crime syndicates. Like, don't get me wrong, like those two episodes that featured the Mandalorian were great, but I kind of wish that they saved those for like season 3 of the Mandalorian, which is coming out next year. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. Or hell, like maybe they should have just set the Book of Boba Fett like on Coruscant, like to really show like the full scope of like the underworld, since Tatooine's like part of the Outer Rim and Coruscant is part of like I think the center of the galaxy basically. I don't know, but that's just me. But yeah, I liked how smaller this show felt and like more personal, kind of, because like once again, like you don't see a lot of action sequences. Hell, my favorite action sequence in the entire season, like it wasn't like any of the really big chaotic fight scenes where like there's a prison break scene, a scene where like where the plan for the Imperial garrison goes awry, so like they have to fight their way out, and then like a scene during the finale where I'm not gonna say what exactly happens, but there's this really big public event where at the end of it, like everyone in the area basically takes up their arms and fights against the Empire. But my favorite scene in the whole season is like really early on when Cassian and Stellan Skarsgård, like they're in this warehouse and being chased by the Corpos that are hunting Andor, and while they're in a firefight, like the entire building is just like coming down around them, and like there's pieces of machinery that are just hanging off chains that are just swinging around, hitting into people, just smashing into the floor. And I thought that was one of the more creative bits of the show. Like in a way, it was a little bit like the Anakin versus Obi-Wan fight on Mustafar, where like while Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting, like the entire place is just coming down around them. So while they're fighting at the same time, they also have to escape the place and get to safe ground or high ground, more like it. But it was a really cool fight scene. At least I think so. Really, the only thing that the only negative that I really have about this, like in universe, I guess outside of it, is that at least for the show itself, like there really wasn't any tension, at least with Cassian's character, where like you see like some dark stuff in this show, like there's like an entire line of people in the prison. I think they said it was 100 prisoners who like just got mass exterminated just to keep like a piece of information from getting out, even though it got revealed eventually. But immediately with that scene is a moment where like this older prisoner, like he gets old and like has a stroke, so like the medical prisoner, like he has no choice but to euthanize him. I don't think I've ever seen that in Star Wars before. There's some scenes where like where a man's family are being held hostage, and like even though the man works for the Empire, like I mean his family is still taken hostage. So, you know. There's moments where like Cassian's mother is harassed, and like these people would just get shot in the streets, like just to try to draw Cassian out. But as for Cassian himself, like at least for me, like I was never worried for him at all, because I already knew that he was going to die in Rogue One. I mean, hell, I knew that Cassian and everyone in Rogue One was gonna die before even saw that film. But for this TV show specifically, like, I mean, I knew he wasn't gonna die in the TV show. So, I mean, I already figured, like, well, that kind of like takes away the tension of it. It's kind of like with the Black Widow movie with Natasha Romanoff. Like, you know that she dies at the end of Endgame, so like there's like no tension at all, like, to see what happens to her character. I mean, maybe one of her family members is gonna die, which didn't happen at all. But other than that, like, you go to see one of those movies or TV shows like for the title character, and if you know that the title character isn't going to die, then, like, well, what's the point? What investment do you have in it? But I don't know. Maybe that was just me. But really, those are all my thoughts on the show, like, without really spoiling it. Like, if there's anything else to take away from this, like, I guess, like, just give these movies and TV shows a chance, like, even when like the actors and directors say a bunch of stupid crap in it, because, like, I think it was like the showrunners for The Punisher season 2 and Daredevil season 3, where they said, like, it was gonna be about, like, Trump and the alt-right and, like, the lie that Trump pushed about fake news and all that crap. Well, Punisher season 2, there was only a single mention about, like, the alt-right, and Daredevil season 3 only had 2 mentions of fake news that, like, pushed the plot forward. So I don't know what these kind of people are smoking, but they should stop mentioning, like, their own personal politics, especially when it has, like, no real connection to their products, because all they really do with that is all they do is just divide people and push people away, which ironically is not what Star Wars is about. But anyway, that's all I got for this one. But yeah, definitely check out Andor. It was way better than I thought it would be. Bye, everyone.